So my name is Robert Bonney. I'm the Undersecretary for Natural Resources and Environment here at USDA. I'm going to kick us off here. We've got several speakers we're going to hear from. And we're here today to announce a unique voluntary partnership between Chevy, USDA, Ducks Unlimited, the Climate Trust. And this partnership addresses climate change, it conserves grasslands, and it supports agricultural stewardship. Today's announcement is about a unique transaction by Chevy that will help it fulfill its voluntary sustainability goals in partnership with agriculture. Ranchers benefit from a new source of revenue, while businesses can benefit from stewardship on private lands to meet their commitments. And we hope this project today will serve as a model for others like it. The project began with a grant from the Natural Resources Conservation Service here at USDA to Ducks Unlimited to develop a scientific methodology to measure the greenhouse gas benefits from grassland conservation. And this is one of several grants like this that NRCS has done to partners across the country to help farmers, ranchers, forest owners develop new approaches and be able to measure the benefits of stewardship to protect the environment and the climate. Now, none of these projects happen without partners. NRCS, USDA can't do its work without partners, and we've got many great partners here today. We also can't do our work without folks on Capitol Hill that give us the tools to do that work, both the budget and particularly the policy. And Chairman Stabenow has been the greatest champion of conservation in her role as chairwoman of the Senate Agriculture Committee. She's helped develop the programs that allow us to make the investments that NRCS has made in these types of partnerships. And I think most importantly in the FY14 or the 2014 Farm Bill that she was a lead author on, we have new programs like the Regional Conservation Partnership Program that's going to allow us to do more good work like this. So Chairwoman Stabenow, great to have you here. Thanks for everything you do for us, and I'll hand the mic over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's wonderful to be here on a rainy morning. The only good news I can tell you is it's snowing in Detroit, so it's you can be thankful for the rain. So it really is wonderful to be here. And Robert, thank you and your team for their wonderful leadership in being able to shepherd through these partnerships. And Paul Schmidt, the Chief Conservation Officer for Ducks Unlimited. It's always wonderful to have Ducks Unlimited in the middle of doing great things around conservation and partnerships, and Sean Penrith as Executive Director of the Climate Trust, which is so critical to this being able to happen, and Greg Martin, GM's Executive Director for Global Public Policy. I'm kind of partial to General Motors, and this is one of many things that I am very proud of that GM is taking a leadership role in. You know, when it comes to the critical work of reducing carbon emissions, it's going to take the kind of leadership and the kind of partnership that we are seeing here today. And those partners can only succeed if we have the opportunity to be creative and to have support for that kind of creativity. And I'm very pleased that in our 2014 Farm Bill, we in fact have strengthened those partnerships to be able to create this kind of creativity. We know that preserving prairie and ranch land helps us to reduce the impact of greenhouse gases. And we know that our nation's farmers and ranchers are the best stewards of the land. All we need is to create the tools to be able to allow them to do what they know how to do. So it makes sense that groups like Ducks Unlimited and the Climate Trust would work with the USDA to bring farmers and ranchers together with corporate citizens like Chevrolet. And that's exactly what has happened, and it's delivering real world measurable results, and that's what's so important. The carbon dioxide tons being purchased by Chevrolet through this program will offset 1 year of greenhouse gas emissions from more than 4,500 automobiles. And I'm very proud that a Michigan company is setting ambitious environmental goals and showing other companies how it's done. And as someone who set out to make partnerships a theme in the Farm Bill, as I've said, I am very proud that the USDA is moving forward using the tools that they have. This program has spectacular potential. This is one of a number of different grants that have been given, and there are opportunities going forward to have other kinds of partnerships that will be able to show real results as well. And when you consider the fact that 2/3 of our nation's land is owned by somebody, it's privately owned, the ability to have conservation on privately owned land is incredibly important. Many of the landholders can now be farmers of carbon. And as they do so, they can keep cattle, keep raising cattle, keep baling hay, and keep growing crops. And that's also extremely significant, just like they always have. So it's a win-win-win. We can continue to see good things happening on farmland, except they now have an additional cash crop in the farm bill, in their process in the form of carbon credits that a company can sell on the California carbon market. And when you think about it, it's really remarkable that such a small amount of seed money can have such a big result. When we look at the dollars involved, it can go a long way to improving our environment and protecting our land and our water. So this is a win-win. It's a win for farmers and ranchers, a win for business. Most of all, it's a win for all of us that want to breathe the air and drink the water and continue to have our precious natural resources available to all of us and our families. So I'm very glad to be here and congratulate everyone for their leadership.
So now let me walk all the way over here to get Paul Schmidt to come up here and from Ducks Unlimited and give us a few words.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you very much, Robert, and thank you, Chairwoman, and the two of you mostly and the whole organization at USDA for working together to put tools together that the rest of us can benefit from in the Farm Bill. I know you did a fantastic job in the 2014, and we look forward to using all those tools that we can into the future. So thank you. Ducks Unlimited is fundamentally dedicated to conserving North America's disappearing waterfowl habitats. And we do that with over 1 million supporters, and we've done it for 77 years and have conserved 13 million acres of wetlands and associated habitats over that time period. And habitats like grasslands, which are so critically important to the work that we all are doing, particularly in waterfowl, breeding and rearing habitat, but it provides so much more than that to our citizens. We are so excited about the benefits of this program, particularly to benefit at-risk grasslands that we recognize are disappearing at an alarming rate. And you just need to look at the states of Minnesota and Iowa to see what can happen when you lose all the grasslands, essentially. And we're seeing that happen as well in South Dakota and other places as well. And so this kind of voluntary program has lots of benefits to it. And we were really proud to be a part of that. I think first and foremost, our relationship with producers, folks on the ground in all those states I mentioned and many, many more, is fundamentally important because we are fundamentally a private landowner country. And we're not going to sustain wildlife and the things that we enjoy without partnerships and work with landowners, private landowners. And Ducks Unlimited gets that. We get that in spades, and we have worked with private landowners for our 77 years, both here in the United States, Canada, and beyond. And so this program in particular protects some very important habitats for us, these rearing areas, these associated grasslands and wetland complexes, and provides ecosystem services, things such as, by protecting those, we're preventing floods, water quality is improved, soil erosion's reduced, a whole bunch of benefits that go beyond just the ducks that we tend to enjoy on days like today. And Ducks Unlimited is grounded in science. Our foundation, all of our decisions, all of our work is certainly grounded in science. And so the rigorous process that was undertaken to demonstrate the carbon that's associated with these at-risk habitats, grasslands, was important to us, and we couldn't be happier to get a Conservation and Innovation grant from USDA to help try to bring that forward, bring that research, that process forward, to get it validated by the American Carbon Registry with the help of the Climate Trust and partnering with General Motors. I mean, the list of beneficiaries goes on and on, but let me just say, from our standpoint, it benefits Ducks Unlimited's mission. I'm most certain that it benefits our local producers, the people that we want to work with day in and day out on the ground, the folks that the chairwoman mentioned in North Dakota in this example, but way beyond North Dakota. Certainly, we hope it benefits General Motors and Chevy as contributing to their mission and their goals. And with the Senator's presence here, I think you can see that the public has been benefited, because she fundamentally represents the public, and her presence here to me demonstrates that all of us are going to benefit from this kind of partnership. So we look forward to doing many, many more of these kinds of things with USDA in partnership, but all the rest of the folks that are here, and see how we can take this to the next level. I want to thank all of our Ducks Unlimited staff who have been so hardworking in trying to put this thing together. We wouldn't have done this without the field work that we're all taking credit for, of course, up here. But thanks to the DU staff for making this real. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Paul. Want to get Sean Penrith up here to represent the Climate Trust, and an organization that's done a lot of the blocking and tackling to make this happen. We appreciate your all's contribution.
Thank you. Good morning. This transaction is much more than just 11,000 acres. This transaction typifies transformation and leverage. The ability to create carbon sequestration, mitigation, and ultimately carbon markets is what's going to allow the management of agriculture and forestry to be managed in a sustainable way. The creation of these carbon credits to move to the market, whether it's voluntary or compliance, is a significant step. This is particularly important in the Prairie Pothole region, which recently has been proclaimed one of the most endangered ecosystems in North America. It's amazing that only 1% of this country's prairie land remains untouched. We must remove carbon from the atmosphere and expand this nation's investment into the climate mitigation space. Last week, the White House's report, Priority Agenda Enhancing Climate Resilience of America's Natural Resources, was pivotal and named a number of the team members that played a role in this project by name, and also recognized USDA's commitment to innovative, carbon beneficial, conservation-based programs, such as the DU project. This is absolutely vital if we're to arrest the 24% share of emissions from agriculture and forestry. A week ago, a team that included JP Morgan and the Nature Conservancy released a pivotal report which really examined the investment community's appetite for investing in conservation finance. The message was abundantly clear. The investment environment needs investable products. They need to triple their investment in the next 5 years. This space offers a tremendous opportunity to provide a home for that private capital. In Oregon, the Climate Trust is a matchmaker between projects like this and carbon finance. We've been doing it for 16 years, and we think that we're pretty good at it. The opportunities that this type of project involve allow the Climate Trust to bring more such projects to the market. The demand for charismatic projects like this and the credits that result from it are causing us to really prioritize the investment into this particular space. And we're investing our own resources to bring this to market. This project is amazing because it's leveraged tremendous opportunities through the support of USDA and the commitment of Chevrolet to make this a reality. So this is not just a transaction. Carbon markets are nascent, complex, and at the moment, quite small and insignificant. For us to reach the critical scale of investing $2 trillion into this space, if we're going to contain ourselves to a 2-degree centigrade warming world, we need to move quickly, and some people have to take risk. We need to take that risk to avoid the risk of an imminent climate change. Partners such as the Ducks Unlimited partners and the Climate Trust are willing to put their resources on the line so that we can transform our economy to value our climate. Chevrolet is demonstrating their commitment to the carbon solution agenda. We really appreciate this team and USDA's commitment and leadership, and hope that these innovative investment opportunities are the start of many great things to come. A partnership that allows institutional investors a home to lodge their investments into this space and build a much more resilient environment. Thank you very much to USDA. Senator, very lovely to have you here, and GM, your commitment is stellar. Thank you very much.
So I know many of us in the room have been working on these types of market transactions for a long time. And typically the most important partner is the business that's willing to step out and take a leadership role. And for that, Chevy and General Motors, we're greatly appreciative. And Greg, please come up and give us a few words.
Thank you, Robert. I'm honored to be here to represent GM and Chevrolet here today. This is really an impressive lineup, and we're proud and pleased to be a part of it. I'd like to congratulate you and Mr. Schmidt and certainly Mr. Penrith for all of your support and help in building this partnership that's preserving native prairie land to support waterfowl and other wildlife. And of course, a very special thanks is reserved for Senator Stabenow. I think when it comes to supporting the men and women who feed the U.S. and the world, and then certainly in our case, the auto industry, it drives so many jobs with the development of technology and other programs, it's hard to think of a stronger champion. And it's great to have you here. We're grateful for your leadership. Now, I know that Chevrolet is already known for vehicles like the Volt and the Chevy Cruze and new midsize pickup truck that's got good technology and stuff. But there are other ways to fuel the clean energy movement beyond transportation in the industry. It's about finding the innovators who are doing big things to leave a smaller footprint, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. From North Dakota ranchers to a Virginia hospital that actually uses methane gas from a landfill to heat its facilities, there are great stories out there about those who are aggressively improving their energy efficiency and engaging the next generation along the way. By collaborating with some strong partners, many of which are here today, providing them with the business case to reinvest in even more energy technologies. This is all a part of what Chevy's doing in our voluntary carbon reduction initiative. The goal is to not only remove 8 million metric tons of carbon from these types of projects, but to get more people thinking about how to leave the world a better place by simply taking action in their own backyard. That's why we're investing up to $40 million in various carbon reduction projects around the U.S. How do we come up with 8 million metric tons? The goal is based on the estimated emissions in 2011 from driving about 2 million Chevy vehicles that were sold in the U.S. between 2010 and 2011. And here's how it works. We purchase carbon credits that promote energy savings, renewable energy, and conservation. We then retire the credits for the benefit of the environment, meaning that they will not be used to offset emissions related to any vehicle, facilities, products, or operations. And that's the best part of this program. And don't think for a second I don't enjoy telling people about that. We take that out of the system and it's done. It's gone. Again, it's an honor to be here and to recognize today's attendees and for all that they've done and the terrific work they continue to do. And certainly to talk a little bit about how Chevy's helping to support their efforts. We're proud to call them our partners, and we're certainly proud of our Michigan Senator too. Please know that all of you can count on GM and Chevrolet to serve and improve the communities in which we live and work around the world. Thank you.
So I think we've got time to take a few questions. Senator, I'm sensitive to your schedule. I don't know if you need to get back, but if folks have a few questions, I think we can take them. If not, several of us will be around here to answer questions afterward as well. So, any questions?
Jerry Hagstrom from the Hagstrom Report. I'm just asking, could you say again how many cars this is that were, I mean, you mentioned something between 2008 and 2011, and I couldn't get down the number. Well,
Can-
if you look at
Greg, can I get you to come to the mic? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So if you look at General Motors Chevy's overall carbon reduction initiative, that's 8 million metric tons, and we began that in 2012, and it'll run through mid-2015. We came up with that number by looking at the emissions of the vehicles that we sold between 2010 and 2011. It's about 1.9 million vehicles. The equivalent of the emissions that they would produce would be 8 million metric tons. That's where we came up with the number. All right?
And it says here, or in the press release, that this is going to be, I guess the land is going to be certified. Who will do the certification? Sure. That's fine. I'll take a stab at that. The Climate Trust is not a certification agent. We facilitate the creation of the carbon credits, but ultimately they move through the American Carbon Registry, which vets that the credits that have been realized are matching against the methodology that's been approved. Thank you.
And the NRCS grant went to support that effort of that process through the American Carbon Registry with Ducks Unlimited.
Is there an amount of carbon per acre that you've estimated that these lands will
Do you want to go ahead?
No, you're all right. You go ahead.
My counterparts at Ducks Unlimited are actually the better people to answer, specifically Billy in the corner, but I'll just say that there are 10,989 acres, which involves around 40,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide reductions, which accounts for 0.6% of US GHG emissions. There is a factor of carbon credits per ton that is yielded, and I'm going to ask Paul to correct me. I think it's around 0.34, 0.36 tons per acre.
What is-
0.7.
what- okay.
0.7 tons per acre. So on the 11,000 acres, you multiply that by about 0.7 or 0.8 tons per acre is the amount of reduction that's created.
I think I saw in a release where you were talking about hoping that this would be something to spur other companies to get involved and step up. Do you have some kind of target in terms of either number of companies or amount of carbon reduction? When will you know you've been successful?
So from USDA's standpoint, we don't have a specific target. We've invested in a number of projects like this. We invested in 2011 about $7.5 million to seed projects like this. And we've already seen trades in Illinois for nitrous oxide credits associated with corn and soybeans there. We've seen protocols put into effect in California having to do with rice and livestock there. So our hope is that we're seeding these types of projects in partnership with the folks you see here and others, so that we'll have more opportunities to demonstrate the value of agricultural stewardship for climate reduction. The other thing I'd say is, and I made reference to the Regional Conservation Partnership Program that Chairwoman Stabenow authored in the Farm Bill. We think that's going to be very, very important to taking projects like these to scale, because projects like these allow us to bring additional leverage to the table. And we think over time, as people look at the Chevys and others that step up, that they'll be willing to invest more in these types of efforts.
If I might just comment as well, Ellen, just in terms of when are we successful on this. I think we are successful every time there is a project that is put into place and is implemented. This individual project is taking the equivalent of 4,500 vehicles, the emissions from 4,500 vehicles a year off the road. And that doesn't count everything that General Motors is doing. But this, so I consider that a success, just this one effort. The other projects are also successes. The regional partnerships that will be announced in just the next few weeks are going to be extremely significant, as Robert said, in taking this to scale. But each step of what is a voluntary set of projects is very, very important. It's one of the ways that we are actually moving forward on addressing carbon pollution that is voluntary and I think going to have very significant benefits. Dave.
Do you think this program could be extended to help auto companies meet fuel efficiency targets, or are there other ways to incentivize the capture of credit from agricultural lands?
Well, we certainly have. When we looked before, when we were looking at the larger program back a number of years ago, I offered the agricultural and manufacturing what we call carbon offsets initiative, as you know. But what has been said is really, this is different in that these carbon credits are being retired, meaning they're not using it to offset anything, which puts more pressure on General Motors to meet goals, right? Because, don't tell your folks that, but yeah, because you're not using it, right, as an offset. They're saying, we're purchasing this, we are taking these off the table. But I do believe that as a tool, that carbon offsets are one piece of the strategy, but this goes even farther when businesses are saying, we're going to make this investment and do it without using it as an offset someplace else.
And I'd like to just go back to the question previously, real briefly, just say that Ducks Unlimited is looking at this. We got into this program as a pilot program, and that's what the Conservation Innovation Grant is intended to do, just as Secretary Bonnie indicated. So now to get it to scale, we're taking our time to learn from what transpired here in terms of all the various parts and steps to the process before we can pronounce any specific goals as to how many more organizations and corporations that we might be able to do this similar work with. So I think it's a time for us to reassess and see how you do get something like this up to a bigger scale.
What's the time commitment for these landowners? How long, do they need to be involved in this program?
Depending upon how you want to ask that, it's forever. In other words, it's a perpetual easement, an easement that will last, and the carbon is then protected through that easement, if you will, and therefore in perpetuity. So, but their obligation was essentially associated with the easement that was a contractual arrangement with Ducks Unlimited that ultimately is monitored by the federal government through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
And do they give the easement to Ducks Unlimited? Is that the way it works? Are you
The way we do it in the Dakotas, we do it a little differently there, in that the Fish and Wildlife Service has the capacity to do the monitoring necessary. So we are at the transaction, as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is. Ducks Unlimited and the landowner. We essentially are an immediate middleman to securing that easement in perpetuity. Does that make sense? Okay.
Other questions?
I just want to, I apologize for being late, I wanted some clarification. Is this something that has spanned both the 2008 and into 2014 farm bill? The 2008 farm bill was sort of the foundation for it.
That's right. The Conservation Innovation Grant Program is kind of a subset of a program called the Environmental Quality Incentive Program. That program has now been reauthorized along with conservation innovation grants. And so we expect to be able to do more of this work, but we also think because of some of the other tools, we'll be able to expand this work as well. Other questions? Yep.
So has this land already been gathered together for these easements, or
Yes.
can farmers apply for this program?
How do they do that? They do that, let me back up and say we started this in 2008, securing these, the easements, and then ultimately the carbon associated with those easements through our relationships with the landowners, okay? So we've been acquiring them since that time period. We're able to transact those credits, in this example, to General Motors with the help of the Climate Trust to make that happen. And we have additional carbon that is available, but yet not ready for market at this time. But we are in the business, so to speak, and hopefully be able to work further with other corporations.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today. As I said, I'm sure several of us will be around longer if folks want to ask questions. Thanks to all the partners. Thanks to General Motors. Madam Chairwoman, thank you to you. And thanks to everybody here.